Well, here we are on Good Friday, and a lot of people have struggled with why do you call a day like this good? This was the day that Jesus was beaten, he was whipped, he was crucified, and he died on this day. I don't think any of the disciples were standing around thinking, oh, it's Good Friday. What is the point of that? And so a lot of times, we're in a graveyard right now. It's a very old graveyard, and sometimes you look at these tombs, but these were real people. They had real lives, they had real families, and when they died, none of the people around were saying, oh, this is a good day. And sometimes we have to look at things close up. Like there's a virus going on and you need a microscope to look at it to try to figure out, okay, what's going on? How do we kill this? But some things you have to step back from, see what is the bigger picture. And so the disciples on that day, all of their dreams, all of their hopes, all of their thoughts of a new kingdom of Jerusalem and Israel regaining its glory, everything was crushed that day as they saw Jesus die. It wasn't until a couple of days later when Jesus rose from the dead that the disciples finally understood that what happened that day was actually a good thing, even though it was a horrible thing at the same time. I want to read to you a passage out of Hebrews. In Hebrews 10, starting at verse 1, it says, "The old system under the law of Moses was a shadow, a dim preview of the good things, listen to that are to come, not the good things themselves. The sacrifices under the old system were repeated again and again, year after year, but they were never enough to provide perfect cleansing for those who came to worship. If they could have provided perfect cleansing, the sacrifices would have stopped, for the worshipers would have been purified once and for all, and their feeling of guilt would have disappeared. But instead, those sacrifices actually reminded them of their sins year after year, for it is not possible for the blood of bulls and goats to take away the sins. That is why Christ came into the world." And if we jump down to verse 10, it says, "For God's will was for all of us to be made holy by the sacrifices of the body of Jesus Christ, once for all time." You see, that sacrifice that Jesus did on that Good Friday, that's what makes it good, because that's what makes us holy. What does it mean to be holy? It means to be set apart for God's purposes. That sacrifice that Christ did, that is what makes us righteous. What does it mean to be righteous? It means that Christ took all of our sin, all of the things that we have done wrong, and He took that upon Himself, paid the penalty for our sin on that cross, and in exchange, He gave us His righteousness. So now we stand righteous before Him because of what took place on that Friday, that Good Friday. Another word we use is called justified. And I love how sometimes it's broken down. Just if I'd never sinned before. That's what happened. That's what makes this day a good day. Yes, it's a somber day as we remember the price that was paid so that you and I could live a righteous life, that you and I could live a holy life, that you and I could make it into heaven, because with our sin and with the guilt that we were carrying, there was no way. You know, the scripture says that all have sinned and fallen short of God's standard. But God gave us a gift. He paid the price for our sin so that you and I could make it into heaven. So this Good Friday reminds me of a song that we used to sing. It says that He paid a debt that He didn't owe. We owed a debt that we couldn't pay. I needed somebody to wash my sins away. And so that's why we call this a good day, because we can reflect on the cross, know that Christ paid for my sin, that I could never pay it, and we can rejoice in that. So I want to encourage you today as we think about Good Friday. Salvation was purchased. Christ paid the price, and it is a good day. But you have to make sure that you have given your life to the Lord. He paid the price, but it's up to you and I to make that step of faith. If you've never given your life to the Lord, if you've never surrendered your heart to Him and confessed your sin to Him, then you can do that today. You can simply bow your head right where you're at and just say, "Lord, forgive me of my sin. Lord, I believe that Jesus died on that Good Friday to take away my sin, that I might be righteous, that I might be justified, that I might be set apart as holy. And as you make that confession of faith, the scripture says that the angels in heaven rejoice because your name is being written in the Lamb's Book of Life. Make that confession today. And let's remember, this really is a Good Friday.